Welcome to Chalk Talk, presented by Option Central, the premier source for all things option football. Now sit back and get your pencil and paper ready for some football education with another Chalk Talk from Option Central.
Hi, this is Tony DeMeo, and joining me today on this Chalk Talk is one of the really outstanding offensive line coaches in the country and a good friend of mine, John Strollo. John, welcome to Chalk Talk.
Thanks, Tone.
A couple things I want to talk to you about is, number one, you use the 2-point stance, and I use the 2-point stance at the running the triple gun, and we led the conference in rushing using a 2-point stance. So that kind of ended the myth that you can't run the ball out of a 2-point stance. Give me your thoughts on a 2-point stance.
Well, to be honest with you, we always used it off and on, combination of a 3 and a 2. When I got hired at Elon, they had been using a 2-point stance, and I just, they were pretty well coached. Our good friend Rich Skrosky was the O-line guy, and I just stayed with it. And, there's advantages and disadvantages. The disadvantages are you got to modify your footwork a little bit sometimes. The advantages, of course, are you can go in every direction, equally as well, forward, backward, what have you. And it's hard for people to get a read on your stance. The other thing is we coach the tackles more than anybody else. We coach everybody, but we coach the tackles to look at the secondary. And the secondaries are our tip sheet. If we have a safety spinning down, we know something's up. If we have them spinning away, we know something's up. If both safeties are capped, we know something's up. So it's, they can see better.
Right. Well, one of the things that I did for 2 reasons. Number one, as crazy as this might sound, when I went to the triple gun, I wanted to run the triple option from the gun, but if I blocked it the same way as I did on the center, the blocks happened too fast, and the back wasn't to the line of scrimmage fast enough. So I went to a 2-point stance to actually slow down the offensive line a little bit. Number one, and number two, I wanted them to adjust the splits, what I call smart splits, to the defense. So that's why I did it. But I noticed in looking at your videos is that you're in a cock 2-point stance. In other words, that's what I call a cock 2-point stance, where it's really almost a 3-point stance with just your hand up. Is that an accurate view of your stance?
Yeah, well, what we're trying to do, acceleration is a function of levers, just like everything else we do as humans. And we're trying to shorten up the legs, the distance from the foot to the hip, by bending the knee. Humans change shape. They're animals. They're 2-footed biped animals, and machines can't change shape, but we can. We can change our shape to accomplish whatever task we're doing at the moment. So what we're trying to do is shorten up I call it gator legs now. I used to just call it a big tree, there's a bunch of history here, but I'm trying to get the distance from the hip joint to the ground shorter in order for us to be able to accelerate better. And that's why we do it.
When you start your drill progression, you start out with, why don't you just take us through the drill progression? But I'm assuming, looking at your video, that you're starting out with stance and starts. Is that accurate?
Well, what we're actually trying to do is do something called uncouple. We're trying to uncouple our hands from our feet. Now, I'm a skip step guy. I'm a depth step guy. I have all these different steps that we've used over the years for different problems. That to me is technique. But the fundamentals of football and all sport, in my opinion, is traction. Okay, feet can't slip. Changing your lever length, your legs, making them shorter or longer, and then protecting your chest. Don't get hit in the chest. Each one of these kids has got a tennis ball, and you can see some of them are holding in one hand, and some of them are they've already got their hands together. But the idea is that they're going to uncouple their hands from their feet and roll the ball like you're making meatballs. Like you make meatballs.
Yeah.
And but keep your hands together. It's an active skill. Okay, some guys use handcuffs, and the handcuff is a passive skill. So the handcuff's doing the work, but when you hold the meatball in your hand, and of course you got wise guys that they grab it, and that lets them separate. But what you want to do is not use your thumb and roll it, and that keeps your hands close together, and that protects your chest. So once again, all we're doing, we're trying to get traction, and one of those things is whole foot on the ground. Another thing that with traction is what we call sort of like a sumo thing, knees out, toes out. I call it alligator legs. Just like if you could picture an alligator. And what that does is it gets your whole foot on the ground. It takes pressure off your dorsiflexion. Your dorsiflexion is your ability to flex your ankle. Some of these guys have got, they've got their ankles wrapped up like they're like casts. They can't bend very much. Some of them are just stiff. But what that does, your knees out, toes out, it ensures that no matter what your surface is, you're going to have some traction. You're going to get your whole foot on the ground. The other thing we do is we try to stomp our feet. If you're standing on a scale, I don't know what you weigh now. I weigh 260. Okay. If I'm standing on a scale, it says 260. If I move my feet around lightly or, skip or whatever, it'll fluctuate between, say, 250 and 270. If I pick my foot up about 3 inches off the ground and stomp it onto that scale, it fluctuates quite a bit. And in essence, what I'm doing is I'm adding force to the force of gravity to pull myself down to the ground. I'm not going to slip. And, whatever footwork we decide to use, we're trying to keep our feet slamming the ground, our knees bent, our butt down, which keeps your knees bent, and our hands together. So that's what we're doing.
One of the things about a two-point stance that I think is an underrated part of it is that it's easier for the lineman to see what's going on because their heads are up.
That's
so
true.
It's easy for them to see. So they have better vision of the defense, and hence they become smarter blockers. They pick up blitzes better. They do a lot of things better just by having their heads up and being able to see things. And do you find that also that helps in, say, pass protection or picking up a plugging linebacker or something like that?
We teach off the safeties, and we have codes that we yell out, spin right, spin left, cap, whatever. Safety in the middle, we call him a thief. Got that from Jerry Azanaro. A thief. Used to call it a thief. He's from Brooklyn. We're looking at the safeties. The safeties are going to tell us if there's a blitz possibility. And then, you look at your alignments, the guy's in a 4-eye and there's a press outside and a safety spun that way, you're going to get some noise. And what we're doing is we're calling it out so the center doesn't get surprised. And we're trying, one tackle's talking to the other, basically, so it cascades all the way down. And we just anticipate blitzes better, because we can tell. And one of the arguments for spreading, is that it undresses the defense somewhat. I'm not much for 4 open, but I like 3 open. It's my favorite set. 3 wideouts and some sort of a fullback or sniffer. And I think if you're not coaching the safeties, if you're not coaching what you said, if you don't have your head up and you're not looking at the defense for tips, but for the life of me, I look at down guys for years, and the safeties tell you everything.
Well, the thing about being in a, you ran wishbone under center option for years, as I did. I ran under center for years, and one of the biggest things when as an under center team, and we threw the ball quite a bit from under center, but the problem was always play action. I mean, as a coach,
any pass protection, any protection.
I could watch I could watch Paul Johnson's Georgia Tech team, his last year that he coached, and on the snap of the ball, tell you whether it was a run or a pass.
Absolutely,
because the line can't stay down. I remember yelling at linemen, keep your pads low, keep your pads low. Well, you can't pass protect with your pads low, basically, and you're taking a shot. Well, that really hampers. That was really what brought me into the gun, was that we couldn't pick up. Defenses had gotten a lot smarter as I got older, and were blitzing us, and we couldn't pick up the blitz because we couldn't see it. And then we went to the 2-point stance. It changed everything.
I think too, when you're imagine a sprinter in the blocks, which is what we used to basically put.
Right. That's a great analogy.
He can go straight ahead, but he can't. If that guy's shaded on him, foot to foot, he's gonna have a hard time getting in front of him. And
you're 100% right.
Pass protection is almost out of the question. It's just the way it was. Now, we didn't care back in the day because all we wanted to do was run the ball. We couldn't throw it anyway. But if you have the capability, let's put it this way. One thing I've always heard from you is you always have the capability of throwing somehow, some way.
Right.
And if you don't take advantage of that, you're not very smart. So I agree with you 100%.
Well, one of the things that I really like that you do is you do a great job of breaking down technique with drills. Maybe you can take us through some of your drills and show us exactly what I was talking about.
Well, let's go. Let's just go. We'll take a look at this right here. This video is intercut with plays and drills and what have you. So here, like I said, this is a chorus line. We do this all at once. I'm paying attention to the first 7, 8 guys, and the guys in the black shirts in the back. I'm trying to watch them, but I'm hoping that they're watching the guys that are in front of them more than anything. It's basically an efficiency thing, and we do this for about 3 minutes. But here it goes. We're just trying to stomp our feet. Okay, we're trying to keep our hands together. All right. You can see the stances. Nobody there we go, stomping our feet again. You got to watch. This is a skip step. Some people don't like that. I like it. That's just us pass setting. Okay. And again, we're trying
the meatball rolling going on. I noticed the meatball rolling going on during the whole thing.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing was, just think of a boxer, okay? And I always do this to people. I say, okay, I take my hands and I put them up like on the sides of my body, and I go, what do you call a boxer that boxes like this? And they look at me and I go, knocked out. Okay, so we feel like if our hands are in front of us, we at least got a chance. Now, think of your hands and arms. They're the most animated part of your body. Okay, you can do more with your hands and arms than you can with any other part of your body. Okay, you can stick your hand out to the right, stick it out to the left. You can pronate it, you can supinate it, you can stick it out long, you can pull it in short. Can't do that with any other part of your body. Somewhat with your legs, but not really. So your hands are kind of like the turret on a tank. Okay. Let's just say you're going down the road and somebody's shooting at you from off the road. You don't turn the tank, you turn the turret, you just shoot right back. Well, your hands can do that. Okay, so but in order for you to do that, you got to control them. Okay, you can't have them out of position. You can't have them flailing. That's the word we use. Like, you're spinning your hands over your head, like you see running backs do that. Can't have that, because it slows down your acceleration. Acceleration is change of speed or change of direction, either fast or slower or right or left. And you can't do that when your hands are out of control. Your hands help you get that. They help you change direction or speed. And if you have them out of control, you're going to lose that ability. Again, we're stomping, okay? Just trying to make our feet heavy. I'm not much for sliding your feet. I think it's too late. We really concentrate on that. You know, some guys look better than others. There's a skip step. We use that to gain a step. Okay, let me take you back on that one a little bit. Okay, we're moving the far foot there to get another step. Now this is a function of acceleration. When you take that little stomp, what you're actually trying to do is control your momentum. Now, if you do that with your hips high and your legs straight, you're not doing a good job of controlling your momentum. But when you do it just like that, okay, you're controlling your momentum and you're able to accelerate. See how they move so quickly?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know what I'm doing is I'm waving them around just like everybody else. Okay. So what I used to just, everything was two hands, two hands, two hands. And then I got into this idea of no other sport except for offensive line and weightlifting does anybody do anything with both hands at the same time. Okay. You don't box, you don't throw two jabs with your right and your left simultaneously. You don't throw a baseball with both hands. You don't throw a football with both hands. You don't really shoot a basketball with both hands. One's a guide hand, one's a push hand. So I started to teach what we call mixed hands, okay, a long and a short. And this is a variation of the old, you know, Jim McNally liked it. He called it a double under, but I just hooked arms. You can see each arm, everybody's using their left arm and they're all hooked. So what they've done is they've made their arm shorter so their muscle has to move less. It's just a lever. When you're moving your shoulder joint and your arm is shorter, you have a mechanical advantage to make force. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If they locked their arms out and swung their arms like they were pitching a softball, now they would, if the softball is nice and light, they pitch it pretty fast because they want length. But if they hit that ball, that medicine ball, with a long arm, they're not going to move it very much. Okay. On the other hand, I just put it up there just to, you know, just to, you've already placed that hand, you know, so the right hand is on the ball already. You've already made contact, and all you're doing here is we're just trying to get some reps. Okay. And then we add our legs, and we're trying not to uncoil too much, because when you uncoil too much, your legs straighten. And when your legs straighten, unless your legs lengthen, okay, unless you're looking for speed and length, you're losing the ability to make force and do work. So we try and keep our knees and hips bent and our arm bent, and here we go. Okay. And all it is a coordination. You know, not a big deal. Okay. All right. This next thing is what we call scooting. Okay. And what we're doing, we were a big C-gap team at Ball State and at Elon. And what we needed to be able to do, we felt as though at certain parts of the offensive line, specifically the tackle and guard, had to be able to get in front of a guy that was not in front of them. And I had a kid at Elon who wound up playing pro football. He was an excellent kid, and he used this footwork. We called it scooting. And what it is, you know, people say a bucket step. Well, what it is two bucket steps. It's a bucket step followed by a bucket step. And what we realized we were able to do with that is get into a teeter where our feet were behind our weight, so we could fight force, okay, but stay square. So we didn't turn our shoulders, and we could get in front of a guy and give the runner an option run. He could make us right. Okay, so if the defender played straight, we'd get in front of him, and the back couldn't see the defender, so he just pressed the hole. If the defender played towards where we were stepping, we would just tear him away. And if the defender played behind us, we'd we called it a Heisman. We'd one arm him back to the next guy. So it was, you know, it was, you turn to win, but there's no reason for you to turn until you can win. So we want to stay square. Okay, so if you watch the scoot, and I did this, you got to imagine let's say there's 6 pairs of guys, and all 6 of them, 6 are holding a medicine ball and 6 are doing it. We don't do this. I did this for the video. This was probably on a, you know, off week or something like that. So I just wanted to focus on one guy. And if you look at him, watch both feet. If you can see where his heels are, those dotted white lines, just watch the feet. Deep, deep. Both feet go behind. And what he's done when he does that, he doesn't let his weight go behind him. And if you look at that right there, he's teetered. Now, he's got bad head placement, apparently with that left hand, but his right hand is in there pretty good. And all we did, we started to do this with the you know, independent hands, but he's got his feet behind him. Now, the reason I do it with the balls is because the balls become part of the kid's body that's holding it. Okay, a sled cooperates too much. And if you notice that guy holding the ball, I want him to attack. I want him to be a moving target. I don't want it to be a cooperative drill. I want it to be somewhat cooperative, but basically I want a moving target. So I want that guy to understand that if he flails his arms at all, he's probably going to be late. And if he's late with his hands, he's not protecting his chest. And there's a safety factor in there. There's a million reasons. But if you look at it right there, he's got pretty good teeter. His feet are behind him. Okay. We've recently added the shoulder roll, which gets us even lower. So we don't need as much teeter. Now here, what we're doing is we are shuffling. Okay. And let's say you're in a bubble. Okay, and you have the linebacker by assignment just because you're uncovered. It's the way it worked out, but you want to give help. Okay, this is another way to give help precisely without falling into the swimming pool. You know, Tony, I know you did this. You used to push people in the pool, and you had to figure out how to do it without falling in the pool yourself. So the way to do it is to as you go to lunge, you drop your weight and you have gravity slow and change your acceleration, and you lock out your arms. You do it as long as you can. You stomp your feet, and you just give the guy that's blocking that guy some help. In other words, there's somebody blocking that guy. He's got him teed up for you, and you're just hitting the tee shot. And that's what we do. And then we just to get some reps. And then that last part there was what we call the plow, which means that the linebacker went and hid behind that guy. Okay, and if you can imagine, each one of these guys has got his own line of scrimmage. Okay, so the line of scrimmage is running across their feet, and they're helping somebody that's to their side. Everyone's helping someone to their right. Okay, and again, we're just trying to get some reps. Now this is called a rewind. What that is doing it the opposite way. Now you're truly in a red light situation, okay? And the guy is so far away from you that you're going to your left, and the guy is so far away from you, or something's telling you that once you quickly check your left gap, you want to give help to the side you can't see. So right now, the left gap moving to their left is the C side. That's the side they're looking at. And the right gap is the blind side. That's the side they feel. Okay, they don't want to look because that's turning the whole tank. They want to turn the turret, or if they can't turn the turret, they just want a shoulder chip. And this is sort of like the shoulder roll. So what they're doing is they're stepping, and then they're coming back, and then they're coming back again, and they're just working that. And the whole time what they're doing is fundamentally staying short legs, short arms, so that they can accelerate.
One of the things I find interesting in watching these drills is that you stress the shoulders square all the time. And when one of the things that we did differently when we went to the gun triple as opposed to under center triple. Under center triple, we created a crease and came down on say the nose, or came through down on the inside backer for a veer tackle,
Right.
and turned the shoulders. Well, when we went to the gun and ran gun triple, we created a cavity, not a crease, and came off with, like the double team, with shoulders square all the time. And I noticed in your drills, you guys always have those square shoulders. The other thing we did,
I think that that would really depend on the scheme. Okay, so well, go ahead. Go. I didn't mean
well,
to interrupt.
the thing about having your shoulders square is that you can move anywhere you want to. But when you bring your shoulders down and turn them down, then you're committed to that direction.
Well, we call that, when you turn your shoulders away, we call that vacating, and we really never do that until we can win. Okay, so you're trying to maintain square shoulders until the moment of contact. But see, you see 66 and 67?
Yes.
If both of those guys were working together somehow and we were running some form of zone, they would be responsible. Let's say they'd be responsible for the linebacker to that side. So they'd want to keep square as they could. Okay. If they were running power, where they were responsible for the linebacker on the other side of 75, we would allow them to start square and then turn the shoulders when they could win, because what we're trying to do there is, instead of making a wall, we're trying to build a fence and make the backside backer either get trapped by the fence or jump over it. So it really depends on the scheme, is how we finish and what we're responsible for. But the idea of staying square, okay, if you know anything about airplanes, an airplane can be pointed in one direction and fly in another. Okay, so like, let's say you were the German and I was the American, and I was.
Wait a minute, I don't like that at all.
Well,
you be
somebody's got to be the German. Come on,
you be the.
No, I don't want to be the German, because I'm the guy who knows how to do this.
All right, go ahead.
I'm flying right behind you and I shoot you and your plane explodes and it blows.
How did I know that was going to happen?
Right? So instead of me flying right behind you, I fly a little to the right or a little to the left. And when I want to shoot, I turn my rudder so I point my guns at you. Okay, but I'm still going straight. I'm not going where I'm pointing my guns. I'm going straight. And I'm sliding through the air a little bit. Now, eventually, my rudder is going to straighten me out again. But what I'm doing is called a translation. Every part of my airplane is moving in the same direction at the same angle at the same time. Okay, so I'm able to shoot you and then straighten up again and avoid all your, all your flames and all your, your hair and everything that's coming back. And so we learn how to make force in every direction, okay, without turning. Now, we also turn when we can win, when it's to our advantage to turn, or we turn when we have to turn in order to win. But we want to learn how to translate, how to point. Again, it's the tank. You're going down the road and somebody's shooting at you to the right, but you got to keep going straight. You turn your turret, not your tank. And that's what we're doing. You can't actually, as a biped, you can't actually translate your feet are always at different levels. But we use things called gallops and cow tips and different things that keep us square. Now this is called shuffling. This is when, let's say I'm the center, which 62 is the center right here, and we're running C gap, which is out here somewhere. And we know that if we commit in one direction, either this way, a lot of people will just turn and run, and they run off the ball, or we put our brakes on too quick and rewind. What we're saying is that we're responsible for that linebacker, but we want to give some help if help is good. But if that man that's on 65 starts to widen and brings the back to us, we want to make sure that the backer comes to us and we want to be square so that when the backer and the back come to us, we blow him up. Now, this is us in 15 against, no, this might have been 14. I don't know. This is Bowling Green. Yeah, it was 14. And we're just running the C-gap stuff. And what's interesting is you can see that we're not really firing out, so to speak. But if you watch people that are covered and people that are uncovered, they're all about the same, you know, it's a wall, okay? And what we're doing is we're letting the guys that are covered go as hard as they can. And that's about what it looks like when you're covered. You know, what we're doing here is, you know, you're getting in front of somebody. It's like two cars that are head-on crashing. You don't get a lot of movement. You have to add a force somehow. But we're telling the uncovered guys to slow it down so that we call that red light. Okay, let me explain it to you. If there's a man in your gap, he's yours. That's your green light. You go as hard as you have to. Use your technique, but go hard. Try and get punched. Try and get movement. If there's nobody within striking distance, nobody within the length of your arms that you cannot touch without taking at least one step, we call that red light. So I'm driving a car, I see a green light, I go. I see a red light, I wait. I don't turn my car off, I wait. And when I wait, I can give help to either side. And that was the drills we were doing earlier with the medicine balls. I can help the guy, they're all stepping left. I can help the guy to my left. He doesn't look like he needs it. Maybe I can help the guy to my right. I'm not even looking at him. I just know he's probably there. And I do this without turning. And then we have a third thing called yellow light, but I don't need to tell you that right in this clip. So what we're doing is we're hitting at the right time. And this back was very patient. He understood this thing. You know, he was brought up to it. This will give us an idea. Okay, if you look at the center and the right tackle, or the left tackle, excuse me, in my opinion, all these guys are green light. Now, he might be what we call light. That might be a two-gap threat. And we didn't make much of a difference, but now we add the shoulder roll. Okay, and what that lets us, I'll get to that when we get to it. This guy's moving to a red light. This guy's moving to a green light, this tackle. The center's a green light. The guard here is a red light. Okay, he's probably going to block the linebacker. But we know if he goes smoking out of there, you see this dude right here? This is the add-on player. Okay, he's just a safety. All they're in is a 5-3. We're in some sort of a two-back type thing. You know, we're in 12. Okay, which I don't care for 12. I used to, but you get too many of these add-ons. But as far as he's concerned, he's going to get up in it. They're going to play us in man. We don't run option. They're crazy if they don't play us in man. And you know, if we go smoking out of there and they hit this thing, nobody's going to block them. So we might hit that guard right there. Might hit him, maybe him, maybe him, maybe him, maybe him first, and then him. But that's his assignment. But any of these guys, if he goes smoking out after 27, he can only block 27 and probably can't block him if he backs doors, probably can't block him at all. So the other thing is old 15 is looking at this cat and he's not sure if it's run or pass.
Well, that's one of the things that if you can control free safety Phil by him not knowing, that's obviously a huge advantage.
Well, it is. You know, when you play man coverage against any offense, there's only one answer: run the quarterback. You know, unless you could throw really well. You know, we played Temple one year and they just killed our wideouts. We couldn't get loose. We had no answer. You know, we really didn't run the quarterback. But you know, the deal to me now is don't even run the runner. Put the runner in front of the quarterback and run quarterback zones and quarterback powers and that kind of stuff. Outnumber the defense, or you know, have the quarterback block somebody by reading them. You know, and that's simple. So in other words, if we took, let me just move this a couple of steps. If we told the quarterback, if we took this guy out of it with him and told the quarterback, look at this guy. And if he fits up in it, you pull the ball and run. Okay. And if he doesn't fit up in it, you give it and we'll just block him, let him make a tackle slow. But we don't want him blowing us up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just, yeah. You either got to beat him with your arm, beat him with your feet, or beat him with your mind. And
That's why having a dual threat quarterback is so important these days, is because if you have a running quarterback that can throw, then I think you're going to have a successful offense, regardless of the scheme. You're going to be able to move the ball. But if you don't have a running quarterback, you're basically going to see a lot of man free and too deep man and things like that are going to make it hard for you to throw the ball. Plus, you're going to see a lot of blitzes.
I don't know if I'm assuming you watched the Super Bowl this year.
Yes.
You notice those two quarterbacks?
Yes.
Neither one of them looked like Boomer Esiason, did they?
No.
Well, anyway, we're on the point.
Let me tell you, even Mahomes, if just the way he's so quick in the pocket.
Oh yeah.
Even if he didn't actually become a runner, he's so elusive in the pocket that he's just tough to get your hands on.
No, you want to play man, you better take one of those defensive linemen or two of them and say, you guys got him.
Right.
Well, I mean, look at Russell Wilson. Look at the kid at Jackson, the kid at the Ravens. I mean, the Ravens are running a college offense. I don't care anybody.
I know.
And they're running the wishbone, Tone. They're running your thing.
I know they are. They're running it very similar, and they're blocking it kind of the same way as well, with a double team on less, and then up to the like McNally is calling that duo blocking now, but to me it's just
Duo. To me, duo. The front side of duo is the back side of zone. It's the same thing.
Yeah,
that's the truth. If I'm zone reading to my left, like in other words, I'm calling the zone to the right, and I'm zone reading to my left. That's just duo. And matter of fact, at Lewisburg, if we were veer blocking to the left, that was the side of the play, and we called that zone. But it was really, everybody was blocking right. We were running the quarterback. We were just talking to the backs instead of, it's wishbone. It's just wishbone.
It's funny. I do a camp in Indiana and Bedford, North Lawrence, and the coach runs veer blocking, but if he wants to run zone, he calls it rev because it's the opposite of veer.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting.
In the A gap. Now, when we were old B gap zone team, okay, it was a pain in the neck because, you want to say that all it is a continuum. Okay, so the read spot is the C gap, the B gap, the A gap. But the problem is the center is a little bit in front, and it's hard for him to get in front of the nose without selling out, without turning his shoulders. He can't get any depth. Your smart splits, open your split, close your split, deepen up a little bit. Center can't get any deeper. He's stuck. So, we let him do some other things. So we tell, in this particular play, he's what we call an Apache. Okay. So we're running behind the tight end over here. Okay. And these guys are in the stovepipe. He's the match. All we want him to do is take this guy to the sideline, threaten him, take him to the sideline, but don't let him cross his face. These guys here are all Apaches. They're all trying to encircle. Okay. We feel that the back can make the tackle and the guard right, but the center and the backside people have to catch up to the back. And, if he starts trying to make these guys right, then he's screwing everybody because all we're getting is back gaps from the linebackers all the time. So, this guy's an Apache. He's going to try and encircle the center. And all we say to him is, if you pop out, guess what? You're part of the stovepipe. If you pop out on there, square it up. Now, what happens here, you can see this dude is rocking. The guard's going to pick him up. The tackle is going to be looking at the mic point, but he's not going to run by that guy if he hits it. He's not going to do it. So all we're doing is we're on a mic point system. Now we're just on a spot system because when you're mic pointing, we were very slow tempo, in between our operation. But if you're on a fast tempo, you just have to look at spots. And anyway, that's where we're at. So there's a big rock. We all pick it up. You see the ball is going. You say, well, that was inside zone. No, guys, that's not inside zone. If you watch if you watch where this back crosses the line of scrimmage, it's out here somewhere, right where he's supposed to be. Okay, the linemen are bringing the defense to him, or the defense is cutting back the other way. Okay, it's pretty much the same thing. Now, this one, I put this in here for the clinic because I say to the kids, look, runners, if you do this, okay, and it's pretty much same defense. Under front, they're going to run this dude through, and the back, I say, if you turn your shoulders and run, you're on your own because you got to beat this guy. And you could see 27 didn't back gap, so they ran out of guys. They have a problem there. They're blitzing. Okay, to me, if you take this tailback and put him in the pistol, like right now, everything we do, we have to counter him. Okay, because everybody knows we're running over here. Right. So I like to put him in the pistol. You lose. We kept him there because we thought we were a throwing team. We were a pretty good protection team, but we'd throw it quite a bit. We didn't catch it all that often. And but I like this sniffer because this guy's always got an angle on somebody. So all we're doing is the same thing. What we're saying is when you're off the line, you can't combo with the tackle. So what you want to do is pick. You just want to pick your way to your guy. So if this is the point, this is the plus, this is the minus, and he's just going to find his way. He's just like a fullback here. He's going to find his way to that, and he won't run by anybody. It gets loose, like somebody comes smoking up in there, this guy hits it, whatever. So
John,
that's all we're doing.
You're talking about putting this tailback in the pistol. One of the things I didn't like about this alignment, and I talked to the people at Penn State about this when Barkley was with them, is that he was never a downhill runner. Like he was always going wide first and then downhill, like this guy's doing. And then what people would do is they would set their front away from where he lined up.
Absolutely.
And so, but if he was back in the pistol, number one, he'd be a downhill runner, and number two, they wouldn't have a direction tip, because you could have the guy in the sniffer to the right, and he could still block to the left.
Yeah, you're when you're in the shotgun here, the whole game is countering the setback.
Right.
Now, a good effective way to counter a setback is turn him into a blocker. But now you got a little problem because he's got to block one of these guys, so not so hot,
Right. Works on the board, but not on the field.
Right. So the one play I do like would be counter quarterback, okay, where this guy would knock him out, this guy would go up on the linebacker, and this guy would draw people away, and the quarterback would follow the tailback. But, I fought against the pistol because we were a protection team, and I'm not sure I know like guys like Ted Roof, if they see the back here, they're going blitz. They're going to hug blitz that dude because they don't think if he swings, that's the only way they cover him. But if you don't throw to him, which, if you're, I mean, we tried, but you gotta have Tom Brady. I mean, you gotta have a guy that really understands four verticals and knows that when he's going to get a match on the back, and the back's got to be good enough to get open and get through and get open, and then beat the linebacker. And you can make yardage. It's a pretty good play on 3rd and 10 to get you 9, but whatever we give up in protection, we get better because we don't have to counter this guy. Now, the one thing I don't like about it, Tone, is if you run C-gap zone, you can't read it, you know, because you're going this way, and the back is here, he's going that way, and the quarterback's looking that way. So what we did was we got rid of C-gap zone in the pistol, and we just did pin and pull. And then we count on the quarterback being a bootlegger. But that's neither here nor there.
It's really interesting. You know, the teams in Japan have an interesting stat, John. Is what they do is, and I'd never heard of this before. Now maybe other people do it, but they keep track of how many yards the back gains before he was hit to evaluate their run game.
That's a great way to do it.
So in other words,
that's one of the best things I've ever heard.
Yeah. So in other words, you know, if your scheme is working by how many yards your back gets before he's touched. So for example, let's use Saquon Barkley. Barkley was getting hit in the backfield numerous times and getting 6 yards.
Yeah.
Now, when Barkley graduated and they had somebody else, or when Moorhead went to Mississippi State and ran the exact same offense without Barkley, those 6-yard gains were 2-yard losses.
That is one of the best things I've ever heard. And to be honest with you, you know, of course, I'm always honest with you because you're too smart to fool. Our whole offense, our whole theory of offense, at least in terms of Strollo, is number one, no sacks. Number two, don't go backwards. So really this red light, green light, yellow light was an effort to keep from getting twisted, you know, run blitzes, things like that, to keep from getting TFL'd. And I think it's done a good job. I think statistically, if you look at our years at Elon and then our years at Ball and then even Penn State, we kind of went to that, although Billy's more of a rip and run guy. And I think if you look at Wake Forest, they're probably pretty good in terms of not getting TFL'd, and that's Nick. He was Nick Tobacco was the line coach that replaced me. I think that statistic though that you just said is probably the way I'm going. If I ever coach again, it's probably the way I'm going to coach. That is fabulous.
Well, here's the thing that we did is we would see that our backs were getting 3 yards, which may not seem like a lot, before anybody laid hands on them.
Fabulous.
So we had an initial push. The other thing that's interesting, that, you know, when we talk about stats and stuff, and we've talked about this, I wanted, when I put our offense together, I wanted to put an offense that we could score 25 points on the best team on our schedule. That was always my goal. And if you could do that, you're going to win 88% of your games. And what we tried to do was make it so you could score 25. And the key part was without turning the ball over, without being high risk. So, for example, the air raid guys, well, they always score 25, but they wound up giving up 50 because they turned the ball over so much. That's how when Mike Leach was ahead 32 points in the third quarter and lost to UCLA. He kept throwing the ball, and they kept turning it over. So when I heard about the stats about how many yards your back gets before he's touched, well, that made all the sense in the world. That really validated option football.
Well, you know what? It's a funny thing. Great minds think alike, Tom. So I'm not much of an inside run drill guy. I don't like it, because I think it's so artificial. And it's funny, if there's 6 defenders over there, everything works, and if there's 7 defenders, nothing works. And to me, that kind of thinking is the best. That's worth it. I should send you money. That's the best statistic I've ever heard. That's fabulous. I don't mean to gush like this, but that's pretty good stuff. All right, so you've got we're going to obviously run to the right because we already know, and you've got a pretty heavy 5 technique here, okay? And we don't even talk about it. We just say he's a C gap defender, green light, that's your gap. And we have a pretty heavy guy here. Now, for him, this is yellow. This is a 2-gapper. For him, he's an Apache. He's got green. He's going to wind up red, and he's going to wind up green. Him have the exact same problem. If you take everybody with your eyes off the field except for these 4 guys, they're almost like identical. The back cannot make him right, but if he takes this thing a little bit further, okay, the back, he puts it into the stovepipe, the back can make him right. So let's just see what happens here. He should Apache first. He should turn his shoulders. Okay, so he does. And he's all of a sudden, he knows that he can't get cover because that's the hardest thing to get. Okay, so I'm saying that right there is the C gap. Okay, here's the runner. Don't look at anything except the runner, and that right there, you can see how far it is outside the upright. And here we go. He's almost to the other upright. Okay, and somebody will say, well, that's a stretch. No, that wasn't. It's not a stretch. It's not inside zone. It's slant run, C gap zone.
John, this was great stuff. I really loved it, and we have to do another one and go into a little bit more on some of your techniques. I think it's great stuff, and I think it allows you to win with offensive linemen that may not be the best around, where you can make your offensive line more effective, and I think that's worthwhile to any coach. So thanks very much for your time, and look forward to doing it again with you.
Thanks, Tom.
You've been watching Chalk Talk, featuring Coach Tony DeMeo. Chalk Talk is a production of Option Central, the premier source for all things option football. Ready to improve your option football coaching skills? It's time to join OptionCentral.net right now.